Well, let's get reaction from one of my favourite journalists, columnist at the Telegraph and author of Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, Jake Wallis Simons. Jake, I want to discuss a myriad of topics with you this morning, but can I get your reaction to the news that the Prime Minister is going to roll out compulsory digital ID?
Yeah, hi, good morning. I've got three thoughts about this, really. First and foremost, I feel that it does undermine our sense of what Britain should be. We're not a country that has ever taken kindly to fascism, which is the extreme of authoritarianism. I'm not saying this is fascist, but we tend to sort of resist urges to control us from above. We want to feel that our freedoms are natural to us, our associations are free, and the government is there to enable us to lead free and prosperous lives. And I think at the moment, the government, this left-wing government, is taking those liberties too far and beginning to constrain our liberties, giving us an idea of how it thinks that we should live, and it feels like it undermines that. The second thought is that, look, the government's closing the door after this horse has bolted. We've now got a very low trust and low coherence society with high crime, and we don't know who people are in society in the black market from overseas and so on. This is largely a result of uncontrolled immigration for year after year, which hit a peak, of course, in the Boris wave of 900,000. And now the government is desperately trying to find ways to mitigate this by giving everyone an ID card, reducing our own traditions and freedoms in the name of trying to close the door after the horse is bolted. And finally, I would suggest that, you know, I've got a podcast, The Brink, and Barry Weiss was on it this week, and she said something that really stays with me. She said that we're not facing a crisis of trust in politics. We're facing a crisis of trustworthiness in politics. I don't trust our political leaders as far as I could throw them at the moment after year, decade after decade of betrayal. I don't trust them with my biometric data and with an ID card.
Well, I agree with you. By the way, that's a great booking, Barry Weiss, the US political commentator. Just dropped this morning. The Brink, that sounds like well worth a listen. I was radicalized, Jake, during COVID, okay? That's when I had my sort of wake up, sort of red pill moment, because I think that if we hadn't had COVID, I might be quite open to the idea of a digital ID. It's convenient. This is, you know, all the important information in one place. You don't have to run around looking for utility bills to prove where you live. But having seen the authoritarianism during COVID-19, the illiberal and economically ruinous lockdowns, and most concerningly, the vaccine mandates that meant you had to have this medical intervention in order to, you know, essentially function in a normal society, that was like a test case for what these cards have the potential to do.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that, I mean, you know, ID cards are common across the continent and further afield in democracies, but our British tradition is different. You know, most of the countries that have ID cards have fascism somewhere in their past. They've got that sort of flirtation with authoritarianism that in Britain we've always resisted. We've never liked that. We've always been very proud of our natural freedoms and natural rights. And, you know, this government really is doing all it can to trash our traditions and trash our way of our sort of way of living. This seems to be an extension of that.
Most definitely. Why do you think Starmer's doing it at this juncture? Just what is the political motivation here, given the fact that the government is experiencing historic unpopularity?
Well, he's explicitly trying to link it with stopping the boats. You know, smashing the gangs has proven to be an abject disaster. And now he's saying he wants to stop the boats by, you know, giving migrants an ID card so he can track them better. It's just pathetic. It's really pathetic. He's desperately scrabbling for some kind of legitimacy. And I've noticed that he's recently started to adopt the language of the right. He started to talk about patriotism. I mean, who is this Prime Minister to lecture us about patriotism, having done all he can throughout his adult life to undermine our values, our traditions, our history and our way of life? And yet he's a chameleon. He has no principles whatsoever. He's adopting the language that's popular at the time, and now he seems to be trying to speak like Nigel Farage in terms that previously the old Keir Starmer would have decried.
Most definitely. Let's take a listen to Robert Jenrick, if we can, because you mentioned the issue of patriotism. And Robert Jenrick has told The Sun newspaper and Kate Ferguson, the political editor of The Sun, on Sunday, that he's fed up with foreign flags around the country. Take a listen.
I think that people are sick of seeing, you know, the Gaza flag being put up, a lamppost, a Pakistan flag. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I went down the road from here in Newark and put up Union flags on lampposts for a couple of hours, and car after car, HGV drivers, van drivers were honking their horns. They were saying, good for you. People want us to feel pride in our country. And in order to do that, you have got to integrate people properly and expect that everyone who comes into our country cherishes our history and our heritage and our culture.
Should there be this ban of putting up the Palestine flag then in public buildings or in the...
Well, look, I don't want foreign flags on public buildings.
Yeah.
I don't want to see them on the streets.
Well, there you go. As a question for you, Jake Wallis Simons, is he right that there are too many foreign flags, or was it ever thus that we could celebrate our individual nationalities as citizens of the United Kingdom?
I think the point isn't foreign flags in principle. The point is that what it's become now as part of this culture war, that we're sort of sectarian war that's facing Britain as a result of these huge numbers of immigration that we've had for year after year. You know, you mentioned my book. The subtitle of my book is How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself. And this is a prime example of that. You've got the Gaza flag, which, of course, is to Jews, it makes us feel uneasy. It's on the Palestine flag, because it's become a proxy for Hamas, frankly, in this war against Israel. And you've got it overtaking the British flag. You ask those people who are putting up the Palestine flag what they think of Britain, what they think of the West. I think you will find some negative responses. What we need is a cultural renewal in this country where we can find out, remember who we are and restore that. Even Keir Starmer's been trying to talk about that in his kind of mealy-mouthed kind of way, but we need a proper restoration, and that will involve faith, flag and family coming back in a way that's not chauvinist, that's not offensive, that's just us. It's British. We need that back again. That's a big project. It involves bringing immigration down, of course, integration. It involves banning extremists. But flag is part of that. You know, our flag needs to be a modest assertion of patriotism, not a sectarian weapon against the Palestine flag. It needs to be something that brings us all together in a way that is British, that reinforces our sense of self, which we've lost under successive governments in recent decades.
Most definitely. Before I let you go, Jake, first of all, the book is out next week, Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself. Why is the battle, the fight upon which Israel is embarked against Hamas right now, a battle for anyone that appreciates freedom?
Well, you know, Hamas is an outcrop of the Muslim Brotherhood. Al-Qaeda is derived from the Muslim Brotherhood. The Islamic State comes from the Muslim Brotherhood. Even the Iranian regime stems ideologically in some ways from the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is banned all over the Middle East by countries like the UAE, Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan. But the Muslim Brotherhood is active here in our societies. One of its headquarters, main global headquarters, is in Britain. It dominates Muslim communities up and down Britain, radicalizing their mosques, preventing them from integrating, influencing their views to be extreme and to oppose Britain and the West. The Muslim Brotherhood is a threat for us. It seeks a generational change to take over this country, impose Sharia law, and will resort to jihad if necessary. It raises money here and filters it through a series of shell companies and so on to Hamas in Gaza. What I'm saying is, it's all part of one problem. Hamas want to kill Jews first and foremost, but they're part of a greater ideology that spans the West and the globe, that wants to kill us too. The Manchester bomber, Salman Abedi, who blew up those 22 people in 2017 in Manchester, he was part of the same ideology that powers Hamas today. It's one fight. Israel knows who the enemy is and is fighting it. Unfortunately, in Britain, as Keir Starmer showed in recognising a Palestinian state without preconditions just the other day, we have forgotten how to call the enemy the enemy. We have forgotten how to call our friends and allies our friends and allies, because we have forgotten who we are. We've got to wake up and understand that once again before it's too late.
Most definitely. Before I let you go, Jake, briefly, if you can, the terrorism case against kneecap rapper Liam O'Hanna has been thrown out following a technical error in the way that the charge against him was brought. The 27-year-old, who performs under the stage name of Mo Chara, was accused of displaying a flag in support of proscribed terror organisation Hezbollah at a gig at the O2 Forum in Kentish Town, North London, in November. It's been thrown out. In his judgment, Mr. Goldsprings said these proceedings were instituted unlawfully and are null. Your reaction?
I think it just shows how broken Britain has become, frankly. You know, we shouldn't have got to a point where we've got these people having to be taken to court in the first place. That just goes to show how broken our society is, how it's become dominated by this radicalism, Islamist radicalism, progressive radicalism, combining and trying to hollow us out and take us down from within. That's the first problem. We shouldn't have allowed that to happen. That's because we've forgotten who we are. But the other problem is that our justice system has become broken as well, in that it's become the playground of activist lawyers, activist human rights activists, who are able to use the law to undermine everything that we're trying to do to keep our citizens safe and keep Britain free. And these are serious problems that we see playing out in our courts at the moment. And the kneecap ruling, which is very unfortunate, which will just cause people to be in jubilation. All the wrong people are going to be in jubilation today, I think, is a sign of the times.
Jake, really good to see you. Jake Wallis Simons is a columnist at the Telegraph, and his brand new book, Never Again: How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, is out next week.